Just the word Himalayan in there should scare anybody off, because the mountains don't get any bigger.
No, it was, I think that because I didn't have enough time to think about it, I didn't get nervous about it until I got there. Also, if you know me, you know I probably didn't look at the stages until like really the week before.
Welcome to the Lost in Transition podcast. I'm your host, Chris Gerard. Glad you could join us here in the middle of the hot summer, but we are getting in some good racing out there. Glad to see a lot of friends of the show getting some great wins out there. I know Amy Dixon and Kirsten Sass together at the para-triathlon race over in Italy did very well. Congratulations to them and everybody else who is having a good race season so far. We've got lots of great guests coming up for you, too, on the Lost in Transition podcast. Mr. Xterra, Marcus Barton, coming up next week. Looking forward to talking to him. Tonight, we talked to Kaysee Armstrong. She is a pro mountain biker and based right here in our own backyard. Got to talk to her about some really interesting experiences racing all over the world in races that just honestly sane people should not do whatsoever. So we had a great time talking with Kaysee. Derek Tingle joins me as well. That's next on the Lost in Transition podcast.
Kaysee Armstrong is a pro mountain biker with the Liv Trail Squad team. She won the grueling Trans-Andes stage race in 2017 and 2018 and swept the Collegiate Mountain Bike Nationals a few years ago. She also helps others get hooked on mountain biking through her involvement in the Bell Joyride Clinics, the Little Bellas cycling program, and the Smokey Mountain Bears middle and high school mountain bike teams. Kaysee, welcome to Lost in Transition.
Thank you for having me.
So, high school, great place to start this whole story of yours. You were doing pretty traditional sports, like cheerleading, gymnastics, yeah?
Yes.
How did you go from that into mountain biking?
That is a very good question. It's funny you even knew that, but a boyfriend. So I did competitive cheerleading growing up after spending 7 years doing swim team. So I feel like I've always been super active. And I also rode dirt bikes growing up as well for fun on our farm. And I had a boyfriend with a dad who was really into mountain biking here in Knoxville. And all of a sudden I found myself buying a Gary Fisher for $700 and really sucking at mountain biking. And thought, well, at least I'll stay in shape. And it just fit every bit of my personality as far as like, I love to be outside. I like to be active. I love a good community of people, and it just all kind of fit together. And even though I sucked at it, I was like, well, I spent $700, so I better get better at it. Which also speaks to the other part of my personality is I'm driven, clearly. So even when I'm not good at something, I do pursue it 1,000%. So it's been good.
Cool. So, with the crossover and stuff, when you were in that crossover phase, when mountain biking was just kind of the thing you did to stay in shape, did you find that like one crossed over with the other any better, that, mountain biking made you better at the other sports you were doing, or dedication to those other sports translated over into the mountain biking side of things that made you want to get better? And
no.
No crossover at all.
I would say that it was more of like my cheering coach, because I was on the last year on like age eligibility for competitive cheerleading. So I feel like what had happened was, if anything, mountain biking was starting to get in the way of that. And I felt myself knowing cheering was going to come on the outs, like it just wasn't going to last. And I definitely had reached a maximum point of, 20 hours of training in the gym. And I don't think people understand how much work was put into that. So I think if anything, mountain biking gave me this new outlet and let me get outside of a gym and get outside in nature. And weirdly, my coach was probably like, I wish she would have never picked up mountain biking. So no, it didn't. If anything, it just pursued me to like let go of everything in the past. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take my fitness, which I guess I was really fit from cheering, and put it on the mountain bike, which I'm really not good at, but hopefully I have some lungs, which I didn't.
Yeah, I'm thinking like strength, balance, and flexibility. You've got some of that is certainly an asset on the bike. Of course, starting out, like you said, there were a lot of false starts and probably a lot of crashing.
Yes, that's why it's like I want to say that there surely some balance went across to that, but if you would have saw me those first couple of years, you'd be like, no. She can't balance at all. Like I would just fall over in the parking lot. I was like, oh, there she goes.
It's like rite of passage when you get on a mountain bike, like to just fall over for no reason.
Yes.
I remember, gosh, like when we first really kind of got into mountain bikes, me and a couple of my friends, and like one of my friends, I don't care what we were doing, the guy would end up like upside down in a bush. I have no idea how he would get there. Like
Yes.
he would hang himself on vines going across the trail, and he was that guy. And
I was that girl. I have so many stitches.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's
But luckily
funny
you've come
now.
past that.
I don't know when that day happened, but it's like, it's funny. It's not funny because I have no idea when it happened. I'm just like, oh yeah, one day I just suddenly got good. Like, I don't know when it was and if I even realized it, but all of a sudden I'm still wrecking all the time. That's a lie, but I'm going faster and doing better. So there we go.
Well, and that translated pretty quickly out of high school into mountain biking in college, which a lot of people, especially in this eastern part of the country, probably don't even think of college mountain biking as an option. How big is the college mountain bike circuit in this part of the world?
It's huge, actually. Southeast is one of the bigger conferences, and there's a lot of schools you can go to in the Southeast to get a full ride, which actually I didn't start mountain biking until right after I graduated high school with all that, and just that's when I fell into it, and I was going to King, and then somebody was like, oh yeah, you should join the cycling team at King University, and then progress, and then I was getting a full ride. So it was nice.
That is a pretty sweet deal. Like you say, with King University, it wasn't something that they were recruiting you out of high school onto the team, not the traditional path into collegiate athletics. What are some of the things that being in a team environment with on-site coaching and everything like that, what are some things you learned from that experience?
I feel like mine might have been a little unaverage compared to what you would get now, just because I was at King University where it was an all-road team, and I asked to be on the team. Like, I sent that little mail, like, contact us.
Nice.
I was like, hey, my name's Kaysee. I've been getting into mountain biking. I would love to join your team. And it was right in the fall, right when mountain biking was starting, and the coach responded back with, would love to have you, but we're not a mountain bike team, but we will let you go to the mountain bike races if you go to the road races with us. So actually my first semester there, I didn't really meet my teammates till nationals, when they came up to watch me, and they're like, oh, hey, I'm Blake, I'm from the team. And then I got second at nationals, and they were like, wait, who is she? And I was like, yes, I'm on the team, they love me. So it was
had
a
no
little
idea what they were
abnormal.
getting.
But
Right.
then it's like my best friend now, Corey Rimmer, came from King University. Like, I have some of the best friendships and teammates, because even outside of my team, like, I have a ton of people in the collegiate scene, like from Marian University that I'm best friends with, or Brevard Cycling, like Sarah Hill. We used to race each other, and when I went to South Africa, we ended up hanging out the whole time. Like, you take these relationships that you meet throughout not only your school, but through all the other schools, because you're having a blast at these mountain bike race weekends, and it translates over to years after college. Like, these people will always be my friends. We're going to be at races together that aren't collegiate, and it's an amazing experience. So I'm very lucky.
That's awesome. So you kind of touched on South Africa. It's time for me to go fanboy for a minute, because I've been following you through all this stuff that you've been doing. I mean, we got Dirty Kansas that you just came off of, 5th overall, right?
Yeah.
You got the 2017 Marathon Nationals, 2nd overall, right?
Yes.
You got Transylvania, right? And then Cape Epic. So I mean, we've got the big stories that you blogged about, which we'll touch on that later. But I mean, some of this stuff, I know you got some awesome stories to tell about these. So
Yes.
so let's go with Cape Epic.
Okay.
Because that event is just awesome to watch,
Yes.
to watch unfold. And I was following you. I was following, of course, the Ninos and those guys out there just tearing everything apart. But I mean, from your perspective, from a rider's perspective, coming from your background, and then now all of a sudden you're on the world stage. What goes through your head? Does it even register at that point, or you just go and ride a mountain bike?
I just go and ride my mountain bike, to be honest. But the Cape Epic was, in many ways, just very epic. But I feel like I personally got a totally different experience than some of the other UCI pros, because we go there and we get separated from all the amateur racers, I would say. Like, we're in the RVs, we got our own special spot, we start at different times, and we do feel a little secluded. But what was so nice this year is Liv Cycling had that big social media contest where they picked 6 girls who have never done a stage race before from all over the world, paired them together, and then said, okay, you're going to do the Cape Epic. And they provide them with a bike, with a coach, and they've known since, like, I think June or July. So they had all that time to train for it. So pretty much what happened was, a few days before the Cape Epic started, we showed up at Cape Town, and we all met each other for the first time. Like, I'd never met my partner Serena, even though, like, I think we're the only 2 off-road Liv Global cycling members, and then it was 6 of the Liv Trail Squad. And just to see them be, I don't want to say this in, like, a mean way, but they were unprepared. Like, yeah. Okay, here's 6 people who have never done a stage race. I've done how many stage races? And to put myself in that position, I was like, oh, I'm a little nervous for y'all. And also just 6 different personalities. And then to take that, and then all of us, like, by the end of the week, we're just like, I've never been so close to, like, a girl group like that. And to grow up as a cheerleader, it's hard to say that. So it's just like, okay, we're gonna go out there, and Serena and I are gonna finish this race in like 6 hours on day 1, and then by the time we get showered, get a massage, eat lunch, hang out, they're finally rolling in at 6 p.m. Like, it would take them so much longer, you know? Yeah. And so I feel like they look at us as pros, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're so astounded. You guys are so fast, but it's so hard. And it's like, well, yeah. When I compare myself to what they're putting their bodies through out there all day, it's amazing to watch. And then they get in their tents, and then they wake up, and then they do it again. And just the Cape Epic this year for me was, I've never raced with a partner ever, so I've only done solo. So I would say for me personally, that was a huge change. Luckily, Serena is awesome, so that was nice. And, you know, to race pretty much they are world class. I mean, they are winning the World Cup, so we're racing them, you know? So it's fast all day, and it's just like, it took us 35 hours over 8 days to finish that race. So crazy. It's just like, whoa, okay. And you also had a bout with stomach bug there again, right? I had it twice. Oh, I feel like, so like the night before the prologue, I woke up at like 2 a.m. and I was like, I don't feel so good. And so I was just hoping it was just some water I drank, or, you know, I mean, traveling internationally, this happens. Like, I was sick in India. This is not new to me. But I was like, it's okay. It's just a prologue. It's a short stage. I'll recover. And I did, for the most part, recover, even though in the prologue I had that epic crash that everybody got to watch into, like, the dust pit. And it's like, why did you crash, Kaysee? And it's like, because I just had to chase Serena, super dehydrated, up that climb, going full speed in the sun. And by the time we hit that descent, I was just, like, seeing stars. Like, no wonder I crashed. And, so that happened. And then the second to last stage, I woke up again at 3 a.m. and it was like back with a vengeance. And so, you know, thank God my body's really resistant to stuff, because I finished. I don't know how, but I'm like, I guess I don't need food or water that much.
That's what just amazes me. Just watching you guys go through this, I'm like, God, I couldn't do that feeling great. Like, I couldn't do one stage that level. I mean, anywhere close to that level on, like, full training, we're fully rested. Like, I couldn't imagine being able to race on that level with with any sort of abnormalities and digestive or otherwise. It's just crazy.
I think it's funny that this has come on the heels of having a string of nutrition-oriented people, and we've been talking so much about hydration, getting into summer, how important it is, and now we have somebody that says, I don't really need it, like, do not try this at home, people.
No,
my gosh.
I feel like I'm very nutrition-oriented, like I do eat a lot and drink a lot, but I do know that racing and just in general, a lot of the endurance stuff is 90% mental. And I tell myself that all the time. Like, sometimes I'm in a lot of pain. I'm like, it's just mental, Kaysee. Like, get yourself checked. You got this. Be happy. Try to fake it. Like, ignore that pain. So I definitely told myself that a lot that day. There were some tears. Like, I definitely cried for a minute. Like, I had to get that out. And then I was like... just keep turning the pedals. Like, I don't think you're going to, like, die out here or anything. So just keep
Probably
going.
Not.
So
I don't know. With some of that mountain biking stuff, and I know, was it India that there was kind of the edge of the cliff? They were kind of concerned that you might just go toppling over and that would be it.
Yeah, I guess you guys read about that as well.
Yeah.
India was really my sickest point.
Let's start off first with how you got to India, because this was not
a great story.
This was not a planned thing, as I understand.
No, I got a letter that pretty much from India Tourism that they were going to have women allowed in this huge race in India that they've never had women allowed in before, and they would love to have me, and it was a full paid trip. I said, well, sure, why not? But the downfall was during tax season. I was afraid I wasn't going to get to go, but my boss was like, oh, you can't say no to this. So
right, we should mention you're a tax accountant, so this is the time of year that is just absolutely crunch time. But like you say, they not going to tell you no for that. How did they find you? Did they just go through the list of the top female mountain bikers, or did they do some cyber stalking to figure out who they wanted to invite?
I think somebody threw my name out. So they were like, who's crazy enough to do this? And it was my friend Thomas Turner, who races for Jameis Bikes, and he was like, Kaysee Armstrong.
So we'll blame him.
Yes, definitely blame Thomas.
So this is the, I can't pronounce the first word. Is it Uttarakhand?
Yeah, Uttarakhand.
Uttarakhand. See, I knew that's why you had that.
How close you tried that?
Yeah,
not me.
I knew I would fail. Himalayan challenge. Just the word Himalayan in there should scare anybody off, because the mountains don't get any bigger.
No, it was. I think that because I didn't have enough time to think about it, I didn't get nervous about it until I got there. Also, if you know me, you know I probably didn't look at the stages until like really the week before. Like, I know it's gonna be a mountain bike, I know it's gonna be some long days, but I only have 3 weeks basically to book a plane, get this figured out, get work tied up, and be there. So yeah,
it's a little quick.
Yeah. So when you get there, so I mean, we're on the India story. We gotta stick here for a while. So you get there, and like you said, this is first time women have been allowed in this event, and you're going to a country that historically, women have a very different role in that country than they do here. So how did that, how did you feel getting over there? How was the welcome? How did that side of things play into that event for you?
So India is my favorite story because I was so blind going into it. I feel like being an American woman, I was raised by a strong personality mom, basically, and then my boss is a woman, and I personally have never felt hindered by my gender. And you probably would know that if you knew my personality. You met me on the trails. I'm like, I'm all for it. I don't care if you're a boy, whatever. So going into India, I did no research and had no idea what I was getting into, and it was completely shocking. I would say welcoming was pretty easy, but I was with Thomas and then Zirkle and just didn't really think about it. We're in New Delhi. It was, we got in late, got to the hotel. It was a little weird trying to get a room, but whatever. It's an international country. I just think they can't understand me. Whatever. Throw that one off. And then we get on the bus in New Delhi to go up to the start, which is pretty much you got to take a bus ride for 6 hours up into the Himalayas. Oh, God. And on that bus ride, I feel like my perspective completely changed. There's billions of people and just cows, and I don't know, it's just a totally different country. So in many ways, I became very shocked in that moment. And so, you know, I'm just like, oh, this is not what I expected. It is very poor here, and you know, I already feel super lucky to be the person I am and work hard for money, and you know, I have a roof over my head. I feel very lucky with that. But to go over there and see the things I saw, I immediately was like, ooh, like I'm really, really lucky. Like you could be homeless here in Knoxville and you would be really lucky in India. Mm-hmm. So if that gives you any bit of perspective. So we make it up to the mountains through the storm, and like on the way up, the bus like kept stalling out, and we'd have to get off, and then the bus would go because we were too heavy, and then we get back on the bus, and that was a different experience. And like everything is vegetarian there, and I grew up on a beef cattle farm, so I was like, oh, like am I gonna get any protein this week? Like, so I was a little bit like shocked by the food and just like little stuff, but I just blew it off. Like that's my personality. I'm in a different country, whatever, just embrace it. So then we go to the start of the race, and I don't think anything of it. I just line up at the front because I'm like, there's no way that these people are going to beat me. Like, there's hundreds of them, because what happens is day one is actually a qualifier. So all these people from India come, and they only pick 50 to do the race, and you have to get top 50 that day one to be picked to do the race. And so all these people train all year long. They show up to the start, and I was just like, here's Kaysee. I'm a lady, and I'm lining up at the front, and all the officials were yelling at me like, get to the back, get to the back. And I just kind of like put my head down. Like I was like, oh, they just think I'm going to be slow. Like this is not going to happen. And then I ended up getting like 25th. So I think like at that very moment, some heads got turned, but it was like, whatever, that's a normal day for me, you know. Went to dinner, and still like nothing too shocking. The next day though was like 20 miles through the Himalayas, and it was brutal. Like it was super hot, but all day there's just billions of people like in the mountains, like they're in the trees, and you're just like, where did you come from? Like, how are you up there? Like, and that was crazy. And like the officials are always kind of around you, and they're super impressed by it, and I'm just like, oh, okay, good. And I finished the stage, and then there's like this mob of school kids, and I'm like, oh, this is exciting. Like, and they're like, did you just do this? And I was like, yeah. They were like, a girl just did this, and they were in complete shock. And then there was like all the photos, and then I was like, oh, okay, I really don't think that they thought girls could do this.
Yeah.
And then I went to get a hotel room where my name was on it. Like the officials dropped me off, and they wouldn't give it to me. The hotel guy was just like, no. And he kicked me out. And I was like, what just happened? Like, that's not normal. And so then I was like hungry, and then they kept kicking me out. And then Thomas was like, well, why can't you get a room? And I was like, I don't know. And then Zirkle showed up, and he was able to get the room, but it was because I was a girl. Like, They were like, no, we're not going to give you a room by yourself. Like, We're not going to talk to you. We're not going to acknowledge your existence. And of course that made me cry, because I was like, why are they being so mean? Like, and I just like spent so many hours on my bike, and I'm hot and I'm sweaty, and I, you know, just all of that. So things started rolling in there. Like, okay, here's some perspective. We wake up the next morning, and I go to the start line, and all these people want to take photos. And I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. And just in that moment, this mom came up, and she was like, can I have a picture with you and my daughters? And like made her husband take the photo. And luckily, Zirkle cannot take a photo. Like old man Zirkle, he's 63 years old, love him. He's like my dad. And I'm like, take a photo of us doing this. And he messed up and took a video. But for the first time, that was a great idea, because the mom looks at me and she's like, woman power. And I was just like,
oh, that's awesome.
And just like, and you know, all the women who were talking to me were like, just all of them said woman power, and just like, you're so inspiring. We didn't think that this was possible. And by the end of the week, even the race promoters were like, we had no idea a girl could do this, much less this fast, and you have really changed our minds. And actually the last stage, they had the women lead out the men, which was
fantastic.
huge. So to go over there, it wasn't vacation. I'll say that much.
Right.
I had an eye-opening experience. It wasn't like, at no point was I like, oh, this is luxurious, ever. Like, actually ever. There was like one day I even cried like on the bike because this little boy grabbed my hand, and I was just like, how did I get so lucky to get born in America to have this opportunity to be pretty much riding a $6,000 bike in India, where this kid has no shoes and no house in the middle of nowhere, but he is so happy. Like, that was the other thing, is like, oh my gosh, these kids are so happy. And it just flips some perspective. Like, things are not what make you happy. It's, your perspective in life is what makes you happy. And this little boy was amazing, and I just wanted to pick him up and like take him home to America and be like, you deserve this. And just, stuff like that starts opening up in your mind. But, like, to have them say that at the end of the week was pretty inspiring. So that race was not a race for me. Like, I went into it like, this is a race just like any other. I'm going to another country. I'm going to have this vacation. I'm going to eat good food. I'm going to ride my bike all day. It's going to be so much fun. And it became more about, like, I am going to show these men that I can finish this race. And when I got sick and I had to quit a stage, I remember crying because I was like, I feel like I'm letting everyone down. And I've never felt that before. Like, it was more than just, I want to win a race. For me personally, it was, I want to show to everyone here that we can do this. Like, so what if a man maybe is a little bit stronger, but women are way mentally stronger, and I'm going to show them that, So.
And you touched on the illness side of things and what you went through to stay in that race. Do you think you turned heads? I'm sure you did. That you had to abandon the one stage, but then you came back the next day and lined up again. And what kind of looks did you get that day?
Yeah. So I got sick. I got really sick overnight and just went out for the stage. And Zirkle, thank God I took him. Like, he is a retired surgeon, so he stayed with me all day. And like, there was Yeti, who was a big part of the race for me. Like, he traveled around with us and took care of the out of the country people. And all day they just kind of like gave me a little bit of Sprite, a little bit of salt. And like, I remember them pushing me up the last bit of this climb at 9,000 feet. And I swear we climbed for 50 miles that day. And there were scary monkeys. Like, at one point I thought,
were they flying monkeys?
Basically, there was like 100 of those. Like, they have the beards, and they like kept giving me this creepy eye look, and they were like sitting right there the whole time. And I just remember like pedaling for a couple minutes.
Are you sure you weren't just really dehydrated?
Zirkle is my confirmation of that, because I thought that as well. And I would pedal.
Am I really
sounds like
this?
a hallucination to me.
Monkeys really here?
Pretty much imagine a hallucination, and that was my real life in India. So I just remember pedaling for a couple minutes and being like, this is all I have. And like, I would do the thing I do where I'm like, it's all mental, Kaysee, you got this. Like, don't let your physical stop you. And then it was like, no, I can't. Like, I need to like cry for a second, and then I'll get going. And I just remember Zirkle would always like just go a little bit past me whenever I stopped, and he would look back and he'd be like, let's go. And I was like, oh. But I felt like I would never make it up that climb, mostly because at mile 10, I thought we were halfway up that climb, and we still had 40 more miles. And it was at elevation. There's so many factors going in there, including the fact that I was so dehydrated. And I remember Yeti pushing me over the climb. Like, literally, he got out of the car, ran beside me, and pushed me over the climb. And I like started crying a little bit. I was like, thank God I made it. But then, after we descended, there was another 1,000 feet of climbing. I was like, fuck. This is not good. But I survived. And they gave me a bunch of IVs and antibiotics and all that good stuff. I didn't eat dinner that night. Like, all I could do was just go to bed. And we woke up, and I was like, ooh, I don't feel so bad. I got this. Mostly because I hadn't eaten or drinking, so probably was feeling fine. And then, so we rolled out. I had all the IV in me. I was like, yes, I'm going to do great today. Like, I'm going to be able to finish this stage. I may even actually be able to cut back all that time I lost yesterday and win. Like, I'm like, all this stuff was rolling through my head, like, yeah. And then I took a orange juice or a banana, I forget which one it was, but I took it from the official, and I was like eating and drinking it because I was like, oh, I better try to eat or drink. Bad choice, because then it just started coming out like everywhere. And I had to pull over, and the Indian Army pulled up, and they were like, you're getting in the car. And I was like, no. And then I realized I couldn't zip up my jersey because my belly had swollen up so much. And I was like, oh, that is scary, you're right. And then they started giving me all these shots, and I was like, have mercy.
Wow.
But that was like after 30 miles into a climb, and I was like, I just, like I did yesterday, I survived that, like I felt better today, why did this happen? But then I got better again, started the next day and finished out the last 2, and then, yeah, they were like, man, you're really resistant. And I was like, you're right. I'm strong.
No kidding.
Whether you're ready to take on that first Ironman like me, improve your next century ride time, or just build up from a sprint triathlon to your next bucket list event, let LB Endurance be your guide on the journey. Head coach Lana Burrell brings her racing experience, coaching acumen, and education to craft a training experience that invigorates and challenges triathletes, cyclists, runners, and swimmers. LB Endurance offers one-on-one coaching, clinics, classes, training camps, and consultation. Certified, insured, and embracing the best in today's technology, Lana will turn you into a legit badass. Visit lbendurance.com to learn more and like LB Endurance on Facebook. And for a limited time, LB Endurance has partnered with Xterra to offer you exclusive savings on their best gear. Use discount code CO-LB Endurance for 55% off the best-selling Vortex full wetsuit, shipping now in time for whatever your summer has in store. Code CO-LB Endurance will also unlock serious discounts, including transition backpacks for just $39, marked down from $99, inflatable swim buoys for just $12, normally $39, and a 10-foot inflatable SUP package for just $479, that normally retails for $1,200. Check out the link in our show notes to visit Xterra and lock in these amazing savings today.
So you've mentioned Zirkle a couple times now, following around. I think you've called him your race dad almost. Mm-hmm. How did you guys meet, and how did you get so lucky to have a retired surgeon to follow you around to all these races?
That's a funny story.
I'm sure it is. That's why I ask.
Yeah. So I signed up for the Pisgah stage race when I first started getting into racing. But I was in college with no monies, and everybody that was supposed to go with me and split the cost bailed out. And I was like, oh no, that's not good. And so at the very same time that was going on, he was retiring and had a party. And I went to the party, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm Kaysee. And he was like, I'm Kevin Zirkle. I'm in the mountain bike club, blah, 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 blah. And that's how we met. But then the next day, somebody was like, you should ask Zirkle to go with you. You should ask him to drive you over there. I was like, you're right, I should. So I call him up. I'm like, hey, there's this race. It'd be a great way to start off your retirement, because he just retired. No, he was like, no, maybe next year. Like, I'm not ready for that. And I was like, well, you may not have next year. And he just started laughing, and I was like, I know that sounds ridiculous. I'm pretty desperate. And he was like, there's no way I'm fast enough to race with you. And I was like, no, like, I just need you to drive me over there. He was like, I appreciate your honesty. I'm in. And we ended up going, and I won it, and then he just partied in the back, but finished every day and just had a blast and was hooked. And we got along well, and just ever since, every time I go on a stage race, he's like, he's been there. And then, of course, this relationship has developed into, like, I can't imagine not going to a stage race without him. So now, like, with India, I was like, hey, I have this dad that's going to come with me. And they were like, oh, yeah, we'll pay for him, too. I was like, perfect. Free trip for you, Zirkle.
Nice.
I'm sure he regrets that one. He's like, at first he was like, oh, man, I get a free trip to India. I was like, yes. So remember that? I actually paid you back after all these years. And now he's probably like, that wasn't good.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. That's great stories. I mean, this is every bit of the interview I hoped it would be.
Good.
So next question, I guess, just kind of looking forward. You've done some XC stuff. Mm-hmm. Is
Yes.
that like on your radar? Are you thinking moving toward World Cup level, or is that just not your style? You want to stick with the marathon stuff and the stage racing and...
Well, I definitely do better at the endurance stuff, but this year, being on that factory team, I'm not obligated, but kind of obligated to like, okay, you're going to go to Sea Otter, you're going to go to Bonelli, you're going to do all these pro XCTs, you're going to be at nationals. And so, yeah, I've definitely steered towards that and like fit it into my schedule. And it was so scary to line up at Sea Otter with all those girls. I was like, oh my God, it's like Emily Batty. It's,
Now, I saw that picture on your Instagram with you, and was that her that you were in front of on that Instagram shot?
I pulled her around all day. And so, like, to be able to do that, I was like, oh, I'm better at this than I thought. And, like, with a little bit of work. And so then my wheels got spinning, and I had a pretty good time doing it. So, yes, I would say that XC is definitely, I mean, it's in my future because it's here. It's now. I'm going to be, after BC Bike Race next week, I go to Snowshoe for Pro Nationals. So
awesome.
It's in there. I'm full in.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Cannot wait to have somebody local to cheer on the World Cup scene. That's going to be so great. Man, you're just killing it.
I'm trying.
I'm seriously going total fanboy over here. Not even just... So... Anyway, back onto, so let's get a little bit into like the Joyride and kind of the I guess what am I looking for? What's the word? Ambassador side, the mountain bike ambassador side of things, because I know you're really into that. Mm-hmm. And of course, my wife comes out to a lot of the Joyride stuff. She's kind of getting into the mountain biking a lot more now and stuff. So talk about that. Let's talk about the Joyrides. What are they? Let's get some people out there and try to spread the word about.
So I am not the main person over the Bell Joyrides. That's Missy Petty, and she has absolutely crushed it.
Hasn't she, though?
Yes. Like, I remember one of the first ones having 100 women, and it was like, yes. And, of course, we get to use a little bit of my notoriety as like, oh, here's Kaysee Armstrong leading the advanced ride or whatever. But, yeah, no, I tell everyone to come out and do those Bell Joyrides because... if you're a beginner, there's a great ride for you. If you never rode a bike before, there's a great ride for you. If you're, I don't know where I fit in, like, but I kind of want to go fast uphill, but not fast downhill. I mean, there's literally a group for everyone, and they're all awesome. It's all women. It's not intimidating. And then there's beer and food and fun times. Like, I mean, what else could you ask for?
Because it's mountain biking, and that's what we do.
And they do it once a month in the summer. I mean, like, literally... I'm pretty sure you can't ask for anything better. And it's so shocking to see that because, 7 or 8 years ago when I got into mountain biking, it was all dudes, like all of them. Like, don't get me wrong, it didn't affect me. I grew up with 2 brothers. I was just like, well, whatever. But it would have been really nice to go to a Joyride and be like, oh, here's a bunch of girls. And no offense to dudes, but sometimes, I mean, dudes probably feel the same way. Like, it's fun to just hang out with guys and not have that female, I don't know, counteraction, whatever it is. But, like, also it's really nice not to have dudes around, Like, dudes are cool in certain settings, but also you guys are really annoying. So it's nice to separate ourselves. So.
Guilty.
We're both nodding our heads over here, yeah.
Well, and I think it works out, too. Like, especially coming from, like, because my wife, like I said, she's getting into it. And so, but yeah, to have that level of just comfort with other ladies out there. I mean, she can't ride with me. I can't ride with her. It just does not work.
Right.
It's like, I mean, I will try to hold back, and ride with her, but then she gets mad because she knows that I'm not riding fast or as I would normally ride. And then I get mad because she gets mad because and it's like, just, I love it. I love that she can go out and she can be with people that she's comfortable around and just have fun, because that's all I want, at the end of the day is but it also frees me up to go have fun with my dude friends, or other boneheads that want to go out and ride too damn fast.
Because it's not like we're saying like, oh, men are just so impatient, but sometimes, like, as a female, you go out, especially with your partner, because that's how that's usually how a woman gets on a bike, unfortunately. Maybe not so much anymore, but it started off as like, well, my husband or my boyfriend, including I did this, rides a mountain bike, so I'm going to join in on this. And you think it's a great idea until you go and you realize you're not good at it, but they've been doing it longer, and you know that they don't mind holding back, but you're like, man, I just don't want you to hold back. Like, just go, leave me alone. And then, it becomes this whole, like, you're taking out your frustrations on your partner, and then they're going to, it's just not a good environment.
Yeah.
So the Joyride creates the best environment for women to come out and bike, and especially in Knoxville.
And it's a great sport too. I mean, mountain biking is it's a whole other level of fun compared to the road. I mean,
yes,
because you've road raced too, right?
Oh yeah, and I ride the road in training way more than a mountain bike, unfortunately.
It's almost just mind-numbing at times because, you're just sitting there just watching watts or just like watching the miles tick off like, oh my God, please just get me home.
Yes.
But then, you get on the trail and it's like 2 hours go by like that.
Yes, exactly.
And it's such a different ride.
Yes. I love it.
It's just great, isn't it?
It really is. Like, some of my best moments in the world have been on a mountain bike.
Yep.
So.
And in the worst case, you're going out and you're hurting and you're climbing these big stupid hills, but you look around and you're like,
yeah,
it's just awesome. It's like, you kind of have to, it gives you that opportunity. Like, I do that all the time. Like, if I'm going out, I'm doing like a hard workout or something, which is like a warm up for you, but, like, I'm just drilling up a big climb or something, but then you kind of go back into yourself and you're going, I'm just playing in the woods. It's like, how cool is this? I'm just out riding my bike in the woods.
I've definitely been known as one of those annoying racers that are like, we're all hammering it up this climb, and I'm like, look out there, like, look at those mountains, they're beautiful, I cannot believe we're here. And they're like, right now?
That's tactical. Yeah. See, I know why you're doing it. That's tactical.
I know, but I'm so serious. Like, even like just at Carson City, it was like Larissa was on fire that day, and I was on her wheel, and I was like, I just cannot hang. Like, I can't do it. Like, but I was like, racer Kaysee, like, it's all mental, Kaysee. You can do this. Just hang on. And I just remember, and Larissa is maybe one of those that actually understand, probably we're on the same level as us. I was like, at least it's beautiful up here. And she's like, I know. I was like, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one who notices, because as racers, or even just anybody that goes out and just drills and is there for fitness, kind of, they forget, like, we're in the woods, look at these views, we're doing this for fun. Like, a lot of people forget that, and it's a nice reminder to myself sometimes, and it's a nice reminder to some people that are really annoying out there, like, hey, don't act like that.
That's great advice too, because at the end of the day, we are doing this for fun, all of us.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Pro level and on down. I mean, at some point, you got to realize this is all we're doing it because we love it. We're doing it. Nobody's really twisting our arm, making us go ride our bikes.
And especially if you're out there for fitness, it's like, you're still going to get the same fitness if you have fun, so...
Might as well have fun.
Exactly.
No cost to that.
Exactly.
Circling back a little bit on the mental game, I've noticed when you've talked about your mental dialogue in races, like, you're literally talking to yourself,
All the time.
Going, I can identify, I've done that before. But I also thought it was interesting, I know you mentioned with India, and this may be true of other races too, that you are not one to obsessively study and plan and get every little last detail in order. You more just kind of go into it with the confidence of experience and say, bring it on.
Yes. Yes.
Is that more common in the mountain biking circuit? Is it just us road nerds that are, or you got a lot of analytical people there too that are overthinking things? For sure. And I feel like, if anything, that's what's made me become a pro. So, like, a lot of people are like, man, that happened quick for you. Like, how did you get so fast? How did, from 1 year to this year, it's like I'm on the Pro XCT scene. I'm at the Cape Epic. I'm, everybody's like, man, Kaysee, you're everywhere. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. I love it, But a lot of it is just like not obsessing over stuff and like just kind of saying yes to everything and like going into it like, I'm lucky to be here. I'm not going to overthink it. And people who overthink it blow up. People who overthink it overtrain. People who overthink it end up falling out of the sport, and they fall out of love with something that used to be, the thing they love so dearly. It's like
don't be that person. Like, remember why you're here. Remember we all love it. We're here for the same reasons. And it's worked out well for me so
not
far.
trying to control all the variables, because
No.
I know, so many of us are guilty of that. I'm planning, my Ironman in August, and I've got, like, I'm thinking what I'm going to be doing in mile 15 of the run and what I need to, and some of
Yeah.
that for a, longer event like that, especially first time, is needed.
Yes.
But I could certainly learn to also, like, just say, bring it on and,
Yes.
take the adventure and say whatever comes. I can't,
Yes.
I almost guarantee you I will not predict the bad thing that will inevitably happen at some point.
Exactly.
Like, all the things I worry about, it won't be that. So definitely worth taking a page
Like
from
Dirty
that.
Kansas, I was not prepared for that a week before. Like, literally days before, I was just piecing my bike together and like, man, what should I eat? Like, what should I drink? And it's like, of course, we all have this rough estimate. Like, okay, I
Right.
probably need to eat this much, drink this much, and just don't overthink it. Like, I was like, okay, this is what I usually do on a normal ride. It works. I'm just going to pack all that, and hopefully that works. And you know what? 90% of the time it does. And Dirty Kansas was a great example. I mean, I even got a flat at mile 18, packed a non-threaded CO2. Like, who does that? I do that. So that didn't work out well. I had to stand on the side for a while, like, who's got a threaded CO2 they want to throw at me because my bike pump is all clogged up with mud. Like, everything I was prepared with was not working. And it's just like, you know what? Don't freak out. It will work out. And then I ended up getting 5th. So.
And with a cool picture on the couch.
Exactly. I love that picture.
I didn't realize until this year, just following everything, about the couch pictures.
I
Yeah, we
know.
need to link
I
to
had
that.
no idea. Yeah, no, and I had no idea it was 206 miles. I had no idea it wasn't a marked course. I had no idea.
That'd be a really rude awakening.
I mean, I was
Like
just
you're like watching it
things
click
were
over like
happening.
198, 190. Where's the fucking finish? 6 miles down the road.
Yes, no, I mean, a lot of things did not occur to me until the night before. Like, I was like, ooh, I have to upload this route to my Wahoo, and then I have to make sure I have a battery to charge it while I'm on the bike, because there's no way this thing's going to last 206 miles. And then, all of this stuff was coming at me, and I was like, man, I'm really not prepared. I'm super nervous. And I was like,
And then you roll up race morning and there's like thunderstorms
yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
hailing
like,
at 5 a.m. I'm like, oh, they're delaying the start. And then it's just like, I have no confidence going into this race. I'm just like, man, I hope I get done before dark. I hope I can have a beer. Like, literally a lot of times when I'm on the bike, I'm just like, I'm going to try to enjoy the day, but at some point I'm really not going to enjoy it, but I'm just going to focus on the finish line, how I'm going to feel drinking that beer.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. What am I going to eat when I'm done with this
Yes.
workout? When I was doing the long stuff for Ironman, that was like the thing that got me through it, Chris. So there you go.
Yeah.
Pro tip, when you are like 5 hours into a 6-hour ride, start thinking about what you're going to eat when you're done. That
Yes.
last hour will go by like...
Oh, I start
Yes.
way earlier than that.
Yeah,
Don't start way
sometimes-
earlier than that.
Yeah.
because-
Sometimes it's 20 minutes in. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. The other day
Got
I
all
had a
day
6.5 hour ride, and I was like 20 minutes in. I was like, okay, so I have like 6 hours and 10 minutes left. Awesome.
Like, so
I
that-
can't wait to have some ice cream later.
It's like you're like weighing. That's like, am I going to do like pizza and ice cream? Am I hitting up?
Yeah.
It's like, am I hitting up Cruise Farm or?
Yes.
It's like, am I going to go Burger
Dairy
and
Queen.
Tots? Do I want to? Yeah, it's just that you keep rolling through. You can pass like a good 2 or 3 hours just
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
figure out what junk food you're going to eat when you're done.
Yes. And I feel like I always reward myself, like good or bad races. Like Carson City, it was like I was talking to my mechanics, and I was like, yeah, I could go both ways. I could do really well and I could do really bad, but you know what's going to happen? I'm going to get that Dairy Queen cookie dough blizzard at the end.
Just whether if I get a good result, it may be a large.
Exactly.
It's great. Oh, and also wanted to circle back too, so we didn't miss it. We mentioned Bell Joyride, but also you are a coach on the Smokey Mountain Bears middle and high school mountain bike team here locally. And how did you start getting involved with them?
Yes, that is the thing I'm most proud of, because I used to coach cheering. Like, that's another fun fact. And I actually ran a little preschool program. So I love working with kids. It's there. I love them. Like, the nature of kids and like having fun, it fits my personality. I'm like, yes, let's do this. And then So I know Chris Ford, who owns Sweet Peas Barbecue, through work, and he has a daughter who was getting into biking, and he was like, could you take her? And I was like, yeah, of course, why not? And she was just like running into the bushes and like no brakes. I'm like, oh. But she was having such a good time, and she was like, yeah, I'm on this team. There's only like 4 of us. And I was like, where's this team at? Like, who's your coach? What's happening? And then I just showed up to a practice that I don't know what happened, but there Doug Sharp was, and he was like, yeah, this kind of just started. These are the kids we have. There's like 5 or 10 of them, and I would love to have a mountain bike coach. And I was like, okay, I'm in, done. Like, here I am. What do you want me to do? And he was like, well, I don't really mountain bike that much, so whatever you think is probably the best idea. And I was like, okay, like, let's do this. And then it has grown from those 10 kids to like 56 or 60 of them in like 2 years, like a year. Like it's been so fast and so quick, and it's really made me feel a little bit old, because I'm like, Presley was really tiny, and then now she's like going into high school, and then you see these kids grow in the sport. Like literally a year ago, I was racing these high school boys around Baker Creek, making them throw up, and they were laughing about it like, haha, I just went so hard I vomited. And I was like, yeah, you guys are crushing it. And like, like I'm crushing their souls. And then like, this year it's like, I'm just like, please let me still be faster than Hunter. They got so fast, so quick, and they love the sport. They love racing around, but also they have such great personalities. Like, it's such an honor to like be able to watch them grow up to that a little bit. Just in 2 years, see them go from not being able to corner their bike to like as fast as Corey and I are,
Wow.
And just they're so driven. I see a lot of myself in them, but also they're there for their teammates, and we try to make it a team event. We are definitely not the team that's like, we want to win a race. We're here to have fun. If you're not having fun, we need to recheck some things. So I appreciate that about Doug, and it's been an amazing experience. So we actually allow kids that are 6 years old come to the practice. Like from 6 up, you can come to practice, but you can only race if you're in middle school and high school.
Right.
So.
Nice. So just kind of a roundabout on. So 2 weeks ago we had Patrick Morris from Podium in here,
mm-hmm.
and the week after that, I go to see Patrick like once a week.
Yeah.
And he trains me. But he had me doing these god-awful push-ups with my feet on a Bosu ball and the medicine ball. So you do the one-handed medicine ball and you roll it back across. And I've done the one-handed push-ups before on my own, and of course I've done it with him. And he's like, "Oh, I saw Kaysee do this, so we're going to do this today." I'm like,
that is so funny. Those are
I'm going to
really
have to ask you not to post any more of your workout stuff on Instagram.
I did
because
today.
I know my trainer stalks your Instagram and comes up with all sorts of terrible shit for me to do thanks to you. So I'm going to have to ask you to stop that.
That's so funny, because I saw it somewhere and I was like, I need to be able to do this. And like, we have this big push-up thing at Health First. Like, how crazy can we get with push-ups? And like, at first I was like barely doing 15 push-ups, and now it's like I can pop out like 40 real quick, and then I can do 100, and then we do it with the medicine balls. We do it like T push-ups, and it's like, it's a
You can really torture yourself in a lot of ways with push-ups.
Yes. And I had some pros stay in here that I'm friends with, and we were talking about push-ups at Pro Nats, and they're pretty cut, so I didn't think about it. And they were like, they had also saw that post, and they were just like, yeah, like, how many push-ups do you do? And I was like, oh, I mean, I could probably pop out 40 easily, like without stopping, maybe 50 if it's like, if you want to push me, who knows how much I could do. And they were like, they looked at each other and started laughing. They're like, yeah, we had a push-up contest and we could barely do like 15.
So, yeah, I don't know if you watched it, but Nino Schurter put out his kind of montage training video thing before this season came up, recapped his perfect season from last year and everything. But some of the crap he was doing
Crazy.
was was like, oh my God, I hope Patrick doesn't see this.
I know. I'm like, this is just not for me. Like, this is not normal. So he has the balance of, I don't know what. Like, there's no comparison.
The
like,
guy's
he
an
has
absolute
the
monster.
balance. Like, that's what balance is defined as. And I'm like, how does he hold that stuff on that thing and do that other
He's like
thing?
he's like on the balance ball, holding a handlebar, like standing one foot, doing single leg squats.
And then he's probably like holding 50 pounds somewhere else. I'm like, God.
yeah, all with a huge shit-eating grin on his face.
Exactly.
Because
like, this is
every time you
nothing.
see him.
He makes it look so easy. I'm like, yeah, I could probably do that. And then I'm like, no, you can't.
So,
I can't even get to step one there.
okay, so like one last question.
Mm-hmm.
Of all of the mountain bike pros that you've been around, who's the nicest one? Who's your favorite?
Ooh.
Put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot. Well, there's...
Women, men, doesn't matter. Just who was the coolest to talk to?
I feel like I've
who did-
made so many good friends, so I'm just going to like name... You know, like it's just like everybody is so nice, but I mean, Emily Batty was actually really nice because she was like, thanks for pulling me around. I was like, you got it, girl. She was like, you're riding so strong. And then I would say Hannah, who is actually my age, but she's on the Cliff Pro team. We have become really good friends, and it's just so welcoming. And then, of course, my teammate Serena Gordon has been like open arms. Like, she's been in it a little bit. She's been with Liv, and everybody on the Liv Giant Factory team is so nice. Like, I was so nervous going to Seattle. Like, I've never met these people. And Steven picked me up at the airport, and I was like, I don't know who he is. Like, I contacted him on Facebook. Like, hey, I think you're picking me up. Please be here. Like, I'm landing soon. And they were just so nice. And Cole, and I cannot get over just how nice they were. And like, I remember fangirling with Ray Morrison. She races enduro for Liv, and we had to share a room at Seattle. And I remember walking in and being like, don't giggle. Act like you don't know it. I was like, oh, so you race enduro, huh? Like, how's your season going? But really, I know everything about you. And no, it's so welcoming, and it makes me not even think about it anymore, which is weird because 4 months ago I was so nervous. So I would say on the mountain bike scene, everybody is really nice. It's very welcoming, and everybody should pursue it. Because it's so easy.
And with the PC answer, we close the day.
Exactly. Well, and we've mentioned
Awesome.
the Instagram. We got to tell folks where to follow you there, and also where else can they follow you besides Instagram?
Facebook. I do have a Facebook fan page, Kaysee Armstrong, and then of course my name at WordPress is like where I do the blogging. But most of the time, Instagram is probably the funnest, just because there's stories and posts all the time
And workouts.
And, yeah. And then of course Facebook, and then everything with those two, I will link to like Live Global articles or blogs. So if you do those two, you're probably going to find every bit of the information.
Awesome. Well, we'll link those notes up in the show page so everyone can find those. And Kaysee Armstrong, thanks so much for being here. Best of luck in the rest of 2018.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again to Kaysee Armstrong. Follow her online as she continues to get herself into some crazy adventures all over the world with the Liv Trail Squad pro mountain bike cycling team. Got Marcus Barton coming up next week on the podcast. Mr. Xterra himself, got to be talking to him as we kind of take a little detour into the dirty side of the sport these last couple weeks. Should be a lot of fun to talk to him. We will join you next week here. In the meantime, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, the TuneIn Radio app, YouTube, Facebook, and the website losttransition.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll talk to you again soon. For Derek Tingle, I'm Chris Gerard, and until next time, may all your transitions be smooth.